All right. We're going live. Welcome to Dorsey's Resource. Welcome, everyone. First, before we get started, I'd like to give a disclaimer. This video is for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only. Please understand everyone's individual circumstance or situation may be different. It's up to every individual competent person to please do his or her own homework and research regarding the matter being discussed. This information is not to be construed as legal advice. In the event you feel you need to seek a competent professional, it is encouraged you do so at one's own leisure. Dorsey's Resource is not responsible or liable for any misuse of this information. Everyone is responsible for their own actions. With that being said, all rights are reserved. Now, let's jump into the topic. The topic of this video is going to be genuine evidence. The straw man is a legal entity. I want to go over and provide evidence for you. I have a lot of information. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to pack everything in the allotted time, but I took a lot of great notes this morning. I'm going to be using some references. I have a lot of definitions already. Just to let you all know, from the Black's Law Dictionary, 6th edition, I have with me the Webster's Dictionary, one word in particular, as well as some notes. To jump in the chat real quick, greetings to you, Mary Saunders. Good morning, Grand Rising. Greetings to you. Thank you for joining. Without further ado, I did a previous video. I wanted to go over these are going to be key definitions to research and investigate in depth, in my opinion. Just to go over once again, I feel it's very important. First, please look up the word person. The word person has a legal meaning, as well as individual. There's other definitions I'm going to go over. Andy Dupe says, love your content, always enjoy watching. Thank you very much. I appreciate it very much. So, in delving right in some of these important definitions, this video is like a freestyle offhand. I'm going to try to attempt to go over these definitions to help provide clarification, to give you all a reason why genuine evidence. There's been this discussion behind the so-called that particular movement and redemption. They refer to as, people try to dismiss the straw man and say it's not real. What I actually discovered this morning, and I had forgot, there's actually a term from the Black's Law 6th edition. This is actual legal dictionary, as you guys can see right here. I'll hold it up to the camera for evidence. And I'm gonna go over. I might be jumping around quite a bit, so just bear with me. Actually, just you know what I mean. Um, let's see here. Straw man. I bookmarked. Where are we at? Okay. We're going to read the definition. Straw man, a front, a third party who was put up in name only to take part in a transaction. A nominal party to a transaction, one who acts as an agent for another for the purpose of taking title to real property and executing whatever documents and instruments the principal may direct respecting the property. Person who purchases property for another to conceal identity of a real purchaser or to accomplish some purpose otherwise not allowed. And this is where I'm reading from. Once again, I actually highlighted. You guys might not be able to see with the camera. I just wanted to kind of hold it up to the camera. But there's some important points I went over from reading these terms earlier. But first of all, to delve right in, I want to explain the court judicial system has an entirely different meaning from what we were taught in grade school. Many people are not aware when they study this type of information, such as redemption, or what they call the false label sovereign citizen. That's an umbrella term that is used to discredit people from looking into this type of information. Now, everyone is not very well informed. I spent some time some years ago studying in this particular movement. That's what I refer to it as. I don't belong to any particular organizations. I probably may touch on that later if you remind me. There's still certain contracts that I'm involved with. A lot of things that we do are based around contracts. There's a gatekeeper out there, won't say the name, and there's others as well that will try to discredit this type of information and claim that they're debunking. I'm going to intend to clear up some of the myths, the misconceptions, but the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to deconstruct through. I got a notification, had to turn that off from YouTube. I'm going to deconstruct that through the terminology to empower you all, to give you all the tools. So once you look these terms up, and you really delve deep into these definitions, the terminology from the glossaries that I'm going to go over from these books. I have some other books from my redemption manuals as well on the side, just to let you guys know I'm referencing from. And it will debunk, it will provide solidified, genuine evidence as to material fact that what I'm going over is substantial, it's credible, contrary to popular belief. Everyone I encourage, I did give a disclaimer, is responsible for their own affairs. However, I'm equipping you with the tools that enable me to understand this high level information. I've never gone to a legal school. I don't have a law license. That's why I do give a disclaimer. This is not legal advice. These are simply my opinions. So let's be clear on that. From the research that I've done, which is based off of credible research, and just to jump right back in, going to go over key definition. The word understand, for example, I'm going to go over, I have a Webster's dictionary, and the print is kind of small, but it states the word understand, from what we were taught in grade school or elementary school, means to comprehend, of course, as many of you already know. It means to be familiar with or have knowledge of. Just reading some of the different bullet points that they have listed in the definition. I went over that already. It means to grasp a hold of, significance or importance. It states to perceive, what we would be perceive, our perception. Once again, it's kind of reiterated. It's actually in small print. I'm still, just to let you guys know, a little tired. I was on a graveyard shift last night, but I spent some time researching and studying. I wanted to, I could have easily done a screen capture video, which I'm going to work on down the road, but I just wanted to, let you guys know that I have actual books in my possession. I'm not hiding behind any fake accounts. I do give my real name. This channel, part of this channel, has my real, part of my surname. So just to let you guys know, I want to provide transparency. It's important because there's individuals, like I said, to reiterate, there's gatekeepers out there who claim they're debunking this information, and they're not. I'm going over evidence, and I'm empowering you all with the right tools. But the reason I'm going over this definition, the word understand, has an entirely different meaning within the judicial system. And it has, and this is a regular Random House Webster's dictionary that I'm reading from, versus there's an entirely different meaning in the Black's Law Dictionary, which I show, and I'm going to go over that definition again, but this time I'm going to go over understand from the Black's Law Dictionary. It's very similar. It means to apprehend, the mean to appreciate, as to understand. I'm going to kind of jump ahead. It has a case law in here, which you guys, I recommend you cross-reference to provide evidence. You guys will see that I'm not making this up, and I'm not misleading you all like disinfo agents out there. When you can pull these terms, you can look them up online. You also have online encyclopedias and investopedias as well to research the different terminologies, the terms that I'm going over, by the way. So it says, thus, to invalidate a deed. Okay, I'm going to read that part. It says, it's given an example that the grantor, okay, they're saying that they're incapable of understanding. Okay, from a legal aspect, it means to know, to apprehend the meaning, to appreciate, as to understand the nature and effect of an act. It specifically, then it has actually lists the case law. So understand, in the court system, when you say you understand, it means that you agree, and privately you're giving jurisdiction over to the judge. By the way, secretly, that's a whole nother aspect of this. Just to kind of give you guys an example, this is kind of broad. Some things I'm just keeping very vague, but I'm giving you all enough evidence to research these terms. Look at both the definitions from the Webster's, the regular Random House, like we were taught in grade school. There's other dictionaries you can use out there, so I'm not pumping any particular. However, to show you the legal dictionary for Black's Law, it's going to show you there's a whole totally different legal aspect of that particular word. That's just one example I wanted to use, but I don't want to spend too much time on that particular word, as my eyes are kind of still sleepy, and I'm gonna have to get some reading glasses again. I had some years ago, or magnifying glass, because this glossary, some of these words are really small, but I can read from the Black's Law. So just bear with me here. I'm gonna go into bookmarked. Okay, vessel. We have the term vessel that's referred to as, if you are familiar, there's a term to look up in the legal dictionary called res. R is in Robert, E is in Edward, S is in Sally. Res. Look up the term res. Res actually deals with, I'm going to read the definition, a ship, sloop, craft, or capable of being used of navigation in the water. This is the term I'm reading from the Black's Law. In order to be a vessel for the purposes of an action, the structured purpose must, to some reasonable degree, to be the transportation of passengers, cargo, or equipment. That's a key word, cargo. That's a jurisdictional. That's like a statutory word they can use. Just to kind of give you guys a little tidbit, this is advanced. How they can gain jurisdiction over you, like you driving a car, and there's a difference between interstate and intrastate. But there's a lot of terms, and this video is not delving into that, but I just wanted to show you guys that's some other parts of research. I would have to do a whole separate video on that as well, because that can get really intricate, how they how we pull ourselves in these many various different contracts. But the definitions are key to understanding. When you understand the terminology, the terms in the glossary, they will help really wake you up and open your mind to what a lot of the things that we've been taught in regular elementary school, middle school, high school was at a lower level, a lower degree, like a caste system. Actually, there's different curriculum levels that this information is considered like high level. Like you notice when you took tests in elementary school, or advanced tests for preparatory advanced classes, like students who were advanced or savants that were tested for gifted many years ago, they had to take a lot of what do you call spelling tests. That's why you have like this big national spelling bee. However, the definitions and terms are very, very, very important, and many of us don't have an expansive vocabulary, and this includes myself. But I also, the reason I'm doing this video and I titled it the way that I titled it, I wanted to also give you guys out there that have asked me questions, Dorsey, where do I start from? I just wanted to give you guys an idea. What I did when I first got in this movement many years ago, I did a lot of reading. I read a lot of websites. Many of these websites are no longer up. I have some of the printouts packed away from different documents I printed up at the college I went to at the time, and various other places, from doing a lot of reading. And that's how I was able to connect the pieces and get an idea of what was actually going on, what was factual. But vessel is under admiralty law. Admiralty, to let you guys know, deals with the military. A maritime is law of the seas, but they two are connected. And I want to say, as I did give a disclaimer, just going over some basic information, I encourage you all to do your own research and homework, and even take a legal class. And even in the state that I'm in the city, it was encouraged some years back that one of the colleges downtown offered, I heard, I don't know if they still do, where they said people could, from the general public, could come in and sit in and listen in on law classes. Something to that effect. Don't quote me exactly on it, but I may have saw a story in the news where they noticed that there was, they felt people were tying up the court system this, that, and the other. But that's mainly based on people who don't have a certain level of knowledge in this and research and information, because this information is highly guarded by the ruling class elite at the top. Many of them are taught by their parents. They're sent to private schools by invitation only. They're sent to private seminars by invitation only, where they're given condensed information that's broken down in a concise format for them to understand. And that's why when they want to teach it to others down the road, they can compartmentalize it and share like portions or bits and pieces at a time, just to give clarification on how some people learn this information, by the way. So did I finish? I'm just kind of still going over vessel. So I think I cleared up vessel, but I'm going to get into some other definitions. I should go over the word person, which is real interesting. I'm going to, I have, as you guys can see, bookmarks, so just bear with me. Okay, I'm going over the term person. I'm going to read some of it. It says, in general usage, a human being, natural person, though by statute term may include labor organizations, partnerships, associations, corporations, legal representatives, trustees, and it has trustees in bankruptcy again after trustees, or receivers. And then it says see national labor relations. Okay, that's a particular case law. This is listing. Scope and delineation of term is necessary for determining those to whom 14th Amendment of the Constitutional Force protection, since the amendment expressly applies to person. But I'm going to go over person where I'm reading from. I have highlighted in here from the Black's Law dictionary. I'm going to hold it up to the camera. But there's a key part where it shows after, and this is key because in some of the other definitions I'm going to go over, I noticed from doing a lot of reading earlier from different terms. It says in general usage a human being, and when it says natural person, it states afterwards, it says though by statute may include labor organizations, partnerships, associations, corporations, or legal representatives, trustees. So these definitions are also encrypted, by the way, just to give you guys a heads up. You have to reread them and read them again over and over to provide clarification, because there's key hidden points that I can pick up just like that from reading certain definitions, from going over. There's key points. So that's key. Remember the term person, which was interesting. When I went to the P section, you guys may not really be able to see, but over here in the upper right hand corner, it had the definition of corporation, which was really interesting because there's certain terms that they removed that are only in certain Black's Law dictionaries that are not in others. I can't explain that right now. I have to look into that myself. So I won't get into, the reasons why. I'll leave that up to you guys to maybe ponder why that may be. But I'm going to go over the definition of the word corporation. It says a corporation is a person within the meaning of 14th Amendment equal protection and due process provisions of the United States Constitutions. And it says, where I'm reading from right here, it says, in corporate law, person includes individual and entity. Now, the reason that's important, individual and entity, I discovered there's an actual term in here that is called legal entity. It's actual definition, even though the two words are separate, there's they put sometimes two terms that are separate are one definition. You guys get what I mean? Now, this particular dictionary doesn't list whether they're a verb or adjective when you get into the rules of grammar, by the way, just something to keep in mind. But it's very key. I thought it was interesting that in the P section, which I went over, I read from the word term person, corporation was in here. So everything is not necessarily in alphabetical order. And this is the Black's Law 6th edition I'm reading from. So let me go to some other key terms. Bear with me. Okay, legal entity, what I just went over earlier. Legal entity, I'm going to read from the definition. Legal existence, an entity other than a natural person. Key. So I'm going to show you guys that. Let me try to get it up to the camera as close as possible. Right, so you guys can see right here. States. Now the key is, it says an entity other than a natural person. Notice that term natural person is brought up again. Now, in this particular Black's Law Dictionary, it has the term, it has natural person, but I could not find the definition. I know there's a definition for it. And one of the particular Black's Law, maybe fourth edition, I'm not sure which one in particular, which explains like it'll have a full distinct separate definition for those two terms together. For natural person. But notice these terms that I'm reading from, they're referencing to specifically to natural person. But you have to reread these terms to understand. It's like a code. It's like an encryption, by the way. And also in the court system, some of you all may know they use legalese. I hear many years ago, it's the reason they took Latin out the school system. It's one of the reasons to dumb us down. I noticed when I talked to a lot of the older generation, or whatever, some of them took Latin within the school system, so they understood where I was coming from. This is a true story. Some years ago, when I worked this event at the Grand Prix, this was back in around 2007, I want to say. It might have been '08 because I worked those years back to back. And I met an actual college instructor from, I believe he told me he taught at a community college. He was very knowledgeable, blew me away. It's kind of like sword sharpens sword. He was explaining to me about the different terms, terminology, and going over some things more extensively. That, as we go into the move into the future, there's certain things that they may remove or take out the school systems. Like I noticed there's a particular activist. He has a PhD. Some of you all may be familiar with. His name is Dr. Umar. I used to hear him just using his name just for an example. There was lectures that he would mention. He said they used to test black children for gifted. He said they no longer test black children. I don't know if this is in every state or if he was referencing to one particular state in particular. So I said, what does he mean test for gifted? Because I heard, like the other term they use where there's children that have learning disability. They don't want to use the term mental retardation anymore. You guys know, because of the different political agendas that are being pushed with the PC political correctness. So they use other terms. I think they even have another term they use other than learning disability. I'm not sure what it is, but he said they used to test children for gifted. That means if you were highly intelligent, if you were a savant or a genius, and it's a reason why they no longer do that, from what I picked up, what I gather, and come to find out. I believe, don't quote me exactly on it. I think one of my relatives, which is one of my aunts, actually went to a school in the Cleveland, Ohio area many years ago. She was one of those gifted children. But keep in mind, within the elementary schools, the middle schools, the high schools, and when you move on to college and they groom you, they teach you what they want you to know. They don't teach you the real information. What I learned about the redemption movement, and this is a true story, I consulted with several different people. I asked a lot of questions. I'm going to get back to the chat, by the way. I see some more of you guys jumped in. Thank you for joining. This is Dorsey's Resource. The title of this video, I'm going over genuine evidence why the straw man is a legal entity. I'm reading from the Black's Law Dictionary just to jump some of you guys up to speed or whatnot. So I kind of got sidetracked, off track a little bit. So with that said, I'm going to jump in the chat and see who else is in here. Okay. That says Darren Jackson says, good morning, Mr. Dorsey. You're a breath of fresh air. Thank you. Greetings to you, sir. Grand Rising. Repercussion I'm not, forgive me if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly. Perkash, greetings to you. Thank you for the welcome. Rose GB says, good morning, Dorsey. Greetings, grand rising to you. Greetings. Thank you for joining. That's the one I have. Okay, that's good. Confirmation. Excellent. You know, so to continue to go over some more legal terms, by the way, so we went over where it's at. Where is that? I got sidetracked a little bit. Oh, legal entity. I didn't finish fully going over the definition. So I went over legal entity, and that's two terminologies. It states an entity other than a natural person who has sufficient existence and legal contemplation that it can function legally, be sued or sue, and make decisions through agents, as in the case of corporations. Now, this was key. This is where I'm reading from. Again, this is a key definition. And this was on page 893, Black's Law 6th edition. I'm reading legal entity. And this was a shorter definition. It says an entity other than a natural person who has sufficient existence and legal contemplation that it can function legally, be sued, next page, or sued, and make decisions through agents, as in the case of corporations. That's key. See, a lot of these definitions, these terms I'm going over, it's important to reread them. You guys will see it'll help you connect the pieces, the dots together. So the reason I'm going over this once again, a lot of people ask me, where do I start from? Is this stuff even real? Is the straw man real? The straw man is also referred to as the Anilingus. Meant to go over that earlier. That's actually a separate term. And that's what they refer to in the court system. The reason I've heard stories of people in the past where judges or lawyers would act like there was this mythology behind the straw man, the UCC, they have what's called plausible deniability. They use color of law. Those are actual terms because many of these courts are de facto. They were converted over to statutory. Look up the Erie Railroad versus Tompkins case of 1938. You can go online. It's called the Erie Railroad versus Tompkins case. Erie spelled E as in Edward, E as in Edward, R as in Roberto, I as in Icarus, E as in Edward. Erie Railroad, just like how you spell railroad, versus Tompkins case of 1938. And that's where the courts went from common law. The majority stated the majority of the courts in the country, based on this particular case, it'll describe when you read it and look it up. It's been a minute since, but I got the concept. It's one of the first things I learned. It explains how many of these court systems were converted from common law to where they use admiralty, maritime. They combine admiralty, that's military, and maritime is law, the seas. Under statutory, statutes deal with the codes. You can look up statute. That's a whole separate term within itself. Just to give you guys an idea, all public corporations are supposed to be under public law. So just to kind of give you guys a basic, all public corporations are supposed to be under public law. These terms and the laws, like this Black's Law Dictionary, actually in many of the definitions gives you the actual case laws as reference to go to. This is a legal dictionary that people who are studying for the bar exam, that are in pursuit to try to become attorneys, lawyers, they have to study this dictionary. They have newer versions, and I heard one of the newer versions is abridged, where it may not contain is many of the terms, because the way they do things nowadays is condensed. People just want things just like that. They don't really want to study. So even in the legal profession, and even within the court system, they may not recognize certain things, by the way. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next definition. Oh, yeah, interesting. Husband. Many of y'all may not be aware, marriage license is a contract, just like your voter registration, your driver's license, your beautician license, barber license, military DD-214 papers. All of those are contracts. This is very important to know. Where I'm reading from is page 741, Black's Law Dictionary, 6th edition. I'm going to pull it up to the camera. I'm reading the term, it has the term husband in here. Now, you might ask, why in the legal dictionary does it have the term husband? So I'm going to read from, hopefully I can hold it where you guys can see it a certain way, where it says, a married man, one who has a lawful wife living, the correlative of wife. Now notice in the etymology that I'm going off of right here, it says the word signified house bond. Ah, interesting. Etymology, the word signified house bond. The man who, according to Saxon ideas and institutions, held around him the family for whom he was in law responsible. He was responsible for. Husband, house bond. Very interesting. And I just read from Legal Dictionary. I didn't read that from the Webster's. See, the court system has an entirely different meaning. A lot of people are not taught this information. This is not shared. This is a closely guarded secret. You also know that people, when they get a law license, they have to go like before the county. They're supposed to renew it like every so many years. That's what the oath of office thing comes into play. That number that they receive, that P number, they in a way have a form of like dual citizenship. That P number is issued through the Bar Association, which is an acronym for British Accredited Regency. There's other acronyms. They're also esquires for the Queen, by the way. There's really deep ties to Roman Catholicism, English law, and how they represent you as well, and how they are able to take power of attorney over you and over your estate. By the way, your legal person, or referred to as your trust account, through acquiescence, through your signature. By the way, what I do with my pen? Thought I had. Okay, I had my pen around here. Well, it must have slipped, so I'm gonna get back. Okay, so I just got finished reading husband, by the way. I have some more important definitions bookmarked. Estate. Kind of went over that earlier. Estate, it has a real long definition, so I'm gonna give you guys, I'm just gonna say, look up the term estate. This is kind of like a continuation of a previous video I did, but this particular topic of this video is genuine evidence the straw man is a legal person. This is all going to tie in with one another. These are key definitions to research and investigate in depth. Please do your research. And I did give a disclaimer once again for those of you all who may be wondering. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not anyone's personal consultant. I don't give legal advice. So I'm just going over research that I've done based off evidence of things that I've discovered, credible research. And these are my opinions legally, by the way. So I went over several things. I discussed natural person. Also look up natural person. It may be, if you have older versions of the Black's Law 4th edition, you can also pull up some of the Black's Law dictionaries online. If you do a Yahoo or Google search, whatever search engine you use is up to your liking. I'm not pumping any particular web browser search engine, but I'm just equipping you all with the tools to do research like how I do research in depth, to find the evidence and make sure you document this as well, and to show you and to debunk many lies that are put out there by different gatekeepers and various people. By the way, I'm just showing you there's a distinction between the court system, mainly Black's Law Dictionary, versus what we were taught in elementary grade school. There's terms that have an entirely separate meaning, that have legal implications behind it legally, that implies the contracts that can be enforced, whether for good or bad. You know, you guys get the idea. So, you know, a lot of people don't understand that. So I said the least I can do, this is like basic information compared to some. There's some scholars that are very well studied within this information independently that will say this is like basic to them. But for a lot of newbies, people out there who had questions, say, hey, Dorsey, where do I start from? What I did to go over to reiterate from earlier, when I first got in the movement years ago, I did a lot of reading. I did a lot of research. I read a lot of different websites. I printed up websites, and that's how I connected the pieces together. Once again, to reiterate, but not to spend too much time on that. I went over Anilingus earlier. This is what the straw person or straw man people think is this big mysterious urban legend or rumor. No, and there's actually a definition I read I went over earlier in here that actually it's a straw man, but it's a reason in the court system why certain terms they might act like that it's part of a conspiracy or they don't recognize it. That's because they can legally use what's called plausible deniability under color of law, by the way, because these courts are de facto. They're under statutory. Look up the Erie Railroad versus Tompkins case of 1938 for clarification and into what I'm explaining to show genuine evidence as to material fact of what I'm going over is evidence, it's factual, it's credible. I'm just equipping you with the skills. But here I'm reading from Anilingus. By the way, this is page 530, Black's Law 6th edition. It says a creature of the law, an artificial being as contrasted with a natural person applied to corporations, considered as deriving their existence entirely from the law. And this part up here is where I'm reading from. I can go over it again. I'm reading Anilingus, a creature of the law, an artificial being as contrasted with a natural person. Key, remember I brought up natural person earlier in this video. I said pay attention to that. Notice several definitions that I went over reference to natural person. It's a reason why. And you can't even really find the distinct separate definition of both terms in here. It may be in the different Black's Law different edition. I think it might be in the 4th edition, but it does reference to several terms that I went over. And it says apply to corporations. What are they saying when they said apply to corporations? You see? I don't know if you guys can see that. If I have it up close to the camera, I'll go over it one more time. I'm reading page 530 from Black's Law 6th edition. It says Anilingus or Anilingus, a creature of the law, an artificial being as contrasted with a natural person, applied to corporations, considered as deriving their existence entirely from the law. Wow. But there's a gatekeeper out there that'll tell you that the straw man isn't real. It's just a mythological rumor. But I'm showing you guys the evidence. This is the proof. Reading it, giving reference. And these terms, you can also, I encourage you to look up online, on online search engines to cross-reference what I'm saying. So you guys will see I'm not lying, but those gatekeepers out there, this will provide clarification and demonstrate how some of them are purposely giving false, misleading information in their videos. This is going to show, this is pointing you right to the source. That's going to show you that the straw man is not an urban legend. The term they use within the court system is called Anilingus, by the way. So I'm going to go over some more terms, by the way. Okay. What's the other important? Okay, decedent estate. I've heard instances in the past where some judges have actually tried to help people, and they asked people in the court when they mentioned straw man, they didn't know the term Anilingus, and the judge said to them, "Are you referring to the decedent?" The decedent, and then you have a separate definition for decedent, but you also have a definition for decedent estate. Decedent estate. I'm going to read the definition. I'm reading from Black's Law Dictionary, page 405. Property, both real and personal, which person possesses at the time of his death, and the title to it descends immediately to his heirs upon death, subject to the control of the probate court for the purpose of paying debts and claims, and after distribution, the estate ceases to exist. And then it has a case law in here. I don't know if you guys can see. I'll hold it up close to the camera towards the bottom. The definition I read was decedent estate. Now, why is that definition important? Decedent estate. I'm going to go over the reason why, what I just read, decedent estate. And that's related to what I went over in Anilingus and the term person, and also look up the term individual as well. Because I'm using this as reference, has a glossary. But there's a term, it's called civil death, whereas persons, this is a glossary. You see, it's different definitions in here. I'm going to read the change of state of a person who is declared civically dead by judgment of a competent tribunal. In such case, the person against whom such sentence is pronounced is considered dead legally. So when you enter into some of these contracts, some of you all may not be aware, and this even goes for myself, by the way, certain ways we have to stop operating. Some things I'm not going to go into dealing with the SS number, for example, but some of you all who are advanced may know where I'm kind of going. I'm giving some hints there, but giving you all the newbies information to grasp a hold of, to research. But this is a separate definition I was able to pull up, and that's the actual term in civil law. They declare you civically dead. You have to really read these definitions, and there some of them are actually encrypted. Notice why a lot of the definitions I previously read for evidence kept referencing to natural person. But did you know there's a separate distinct definition for the term person, which I believe I went over earlier. Yeah, I did go over person because it had corporation on the following page. So it wasn't in alphabetical order, which is interesting, which I referenced to from Black's Law, 6th edition, by the way. So we're not going to spend too much time. We went over decedent estate. I went over the relation to civically dead, how they can declare you civically dead legally. It even referenced, for example, in civically dead, there was one definition I read in particular, and I knew it wouldn't state in particular. It said when some parties get in trouble with the law, for example, or get locked up in prison, they are stripped of their rights. They're considered civically dead. And I heard they changed the law, this particular law, like in Florida, for example, where they said felons couldn't vote. That's a form of being civically dead, where they take over, capture control of your trust. They administer your estate, your bond. They're using it behind the scenes. The CRIS accounts, the court registry input system is connected to the Federal Reserve. For example, there is a process that your SSN and your BC, your birth certificate, also known as bond certificate, in a way, there is a connection. There's a correlation, by the way. So I'm just keeping some things basic. I'm still learning myself, but I have some information connected to some very high level sources, and some things I went over already. It's pretty heavy, but I'm giving you guys the blueprint to look up, and a lot of the information they give to you to reference. You just have to connect the pieces, but many of these definitions are connected to one another, and it's like they're encrypted. They're leading you down a pathway. You have to put the map together like a jigsaw puzzle, by the way, that's like broken up in pieces. You have to read it over and over and meticulously, like I went over some of the terms. This provides solidified evidence, especially when I went over corporation. Look up the definition of person, individual, and corporation, and legal entity, which has its own definition, by the way. So, okay, I just went over. Okay, I didn't go over custody. I'll have to deal with that in a different time, by the way. Okay, corporation. Oh, it has another separate definition for corporation within the glossary. But it's interesting that they also listed corporation when I read the term person. Notice I'm in the earlier part. I'm going backwards. I'm on page 340. But remember, I read the definition of corporation, and It's on page 340, right down here. I'm gonna read. I'm gonna read that, by the way, just to show you guys evidence. Going straight from the Black's Law, 6th edition. An artificial person or legal entity created by or under the authority of the laws of a state. An association of persons created by statute as a legal entity. The law treats the corporation itself as a person which can sue and be sued. Wow. Think I should read that again? Yeah, I think I should read that again. An artificial person or legal entity created by or under the authority of the laws of a state. An association of persons created by statute as a legal entity. Remember, I went over legal entity earlier. The law treats the corporation itself as a person which can sue and be sued. Notice it said the law. Wow. The law treats the corporation itself as a person which can sue and be sued. The corporation is distinct from the individuals who comprise its shareholders, by the way. The corporation survives the deaths of the investors as the shares can use it. Okay, it's going into more clarification when it adds, because when it has a longer paragraph, sometimes they go into longer clarification to give you examples and forms of sentences to help you better understand and comprehend the terminology better. But it's important to reread. But I want to demonstrate legally, you know, that there's gatekeepers out there saying, like, for example, the straw man is not real, it's fake, this, that, and other. But I just went over evidence. You have to go over all of those definitions that I went over. They connect together, you know, like a jigsaw puzzle. They come together. So I just got finished reading corporation. I'm going to move on to a different term that connects with some of the points that I'm going over. Okay. Mind you, there's a lot of terms. I'm going over selected ones that I learned when I first got involved in the movement. And it was just a movement. I want to say I did kind of go over. I don't belong to any secret societies, any fraternities or sororities, anything of the like. This is independent, freelance, investigative research. I'm sharing it back with you all, by the way. So to let you guys know, and this is credible. I'm giving you guys the sources and the terms to look up. Okay, I'm not sure which was on. Did I read civil? Did I go over citizenship? I'm not sure what. Okay, I went over. Oh, civil death. Interesting. I already went over civically dead, so I'm not going to read that. But there's a separate definition for civil death. I've heard of that before, but you guys get the idea. If you're declared civically dead, you know, civil also deals with contracts. Like if the judge, if you're in court, they hold you in contempt of court. For example, and you ask your honor or my honor, is that civil or is that criminal? Because if it's civil, would have to produce what contract do you have with them. If it's criminal contempt, they have to produce an injured party. Because if it's under civil, the state is not a political body. When they say the state of, that implies the corporation. Like you have the University of Michigan, that refers to the corporation, but Michigan, the state, like Michigan State, even though that's been corporatized, Michigan State actually is supposed to refer to the de jure, the organic physical land. There's a difference between the land mass legally and the entity itself, which is a political body. See, it can get real tricky with these terms. I'm kind of giving you guys some jewels. This is to provide clarification for those who understand, you know, the information that I'm going over and overstand and understand, as some of my spirituality friends would say. Not just understand, but overstand and understand, by the way. Okay, this is what was the key, because the individual, one of the main gatekeepers that discredits a lot of this information, I'm going to debunk. I go over and see what lies that she puts out, disinformation from time to time, misinformation. I'm going to go over something she went over in a previous video that she said that they no longer use anymore, and I'm going to prove to you that that's not true because it's listed in this particular dictionary. It's a particular word. Because what she would do when the TDA movement broke out, by the way, and that was real. There was truth to it, despite the reversals. This video isn't geared for that, but I did mention Q&A, so you guys are welcome to jump in if you do have questions in particular about that. But this term I'm going to go over to stay on track: capitis diminutio maxima. She tried to say that they no longer use this Roman ecclesiastical law anymore, or whatever, when she looked at different videos. And I learned this myself from watching, listening to a woman who studied this type of information, an Asian woman. She was based over in Switzerland. And she actually had the software where she put the term in her video. I don't know how some people do that, where she put the definition at the top. And I copied it down. I said, oh, I had come across that term before. But this is important. I'm reading from page 211 to show evidence of the Black's Law Dictionary. Capitis diminutio maxima, the highest or most comprehensive loss of status. This occurred when a man's condition was changed from one of freedom to one of bondage. When he became a slave, it swept away with it all the rights of citizenship and of family rights. This is where I'm reading from, if it's close enough for you guys. Capitis diminutio maxima. That, and I'm going to go over this gatekeeper. Her channel's name is Virgo Triad, by the way, in case you guys are wondering who I'm talking about. That's a lie. I just proved it. Just shows you the definition. It's in the Black's Law 6th edition, by the way. And she tried to say they don't use it anymore. Why would they have it in the Black's Law 6th edition if they didn't use that terminology, if it wasn't real, if it wasn't true? And even though this was printed, this particular edition was from 1891 to 1991. Still relevant in our modern day society, modern day time, by the way. Just something to think about versus a lot of the lies that's being spewed over there, by the way. But I just wanted to give you solidified proof, give you guys examples to research from, to provide evidence that certain individuals are not sharing or maybe going as in depth, or because certain people don't understand it that well. But I did a lot of reading, by the way. See if anybody else jumped in. Okay, I'm not sure. Okay, nope. Looks like you guys are welcome to jump in. Okay, looks like we did get some newbies. Maybe I had to refresh. Okay, that's what it was. Okay, I didn't see that. Okay, I'm going to jump back to the chat. I didn't see, I guess it was refreshing. It says, please shed some quick lights between agreements and contracts, just like we agreed to listen to you, just being conscious here. Okay, Ram Perkash, to provide clarification between agreements and contracts. Some of that goes more in depth. I'm just going over like the basic information that speaks for itself. Like individuals can look up the terms between contracts and agreements. I get where you're coming from, but this video is, I'm within a certain time frame. So I really, for this particular video, I would have to probably say that for a separate video. But I think, did I list some examples earlier? But one form for is, with your signature is one way, but you also have verbal contracts. Like, for example, when I went over understand, when the police, when they pull you over and they say, you do understand you were doing 75 miles per hour in a 55 mile per hour zone, when they're getting you to say, yes, sir, and you're nervous, you get that feeling when you're pulled over, for example. This is a verbal contract. He is trained to go over this information, and what they're doing, instead of getting your signature, they're getting your acquiescence, by the way. That's one particular basic example. Okay, Humble Discipliner Yah says, please look up the definition of responsible concerning the word husband. Okay, do that. Went over husband. Okay, house bond. It says in the Black 6th edition, it says, please look up responsible. Okay, I probably have to Maybe I can jump to that in real time. See, he said emphasis, please. Okay, excuse me. It says Rose GB says also in courts using certain words as spells to fall under the crown in admiralty law. One example, all rise. Yes, that's a good point. They're using, friend of mine has gone over that quite a bit, where he studied eschatology, astrology, etymology. He can speak foreign languages, many foreign languages, getting into the etymology, and he's gone over even in ancient times how they're casting spells on us, and many of us don't know. That's why I try to refrain from saying even good morning, because we're not in mourning. You know, when people are in mourning, they're in sorrow, like, you know, they're hurt or death. I said grand rising, greetings, because we don't realize it. Because even when you answer the phone and you say hello, you say hell, you know, with the term. So that's why I say greetings instead, because I'm still learning myself. So yes, you are correct. They are a form of casting spells, because many of these terms have ancient meanings that derive from, you know, by the way. So that's a really good point, Rose B. Alan Michael says, read Jonathan Hawley's book, Dissolve Your Debt. Okay. Uh, Alan Michael says, Kimberly Ann Gogan, aka Virgo Triad, is a fraud. Google her to see all negative reports. Now, that term, Kimberly Ann Guggen, I think was mixed in from somebody who had a particular beef. I don't think that's her real Virgo Triad's real name. However, when I was invited to the TDA movement, for example, I wanted to let you guys know, get this other screen out the way, um, to go over. Let me scroll back up to go over her real name. One, I discovered a troll because I was working with Extra Light last year, who I plan on reaching back out to, for example. And I discovered, and I shared this with some other people, because remember, you guys, some of you guys might remember, I had a video that went viral that I did on the black card. It was in reference to that event that I had attended, that seminar. I won't say the name of it, but some of you guys may remember or know. And Yusuf shared that video. Big shout out to Yusuf, by the way. Does good work. He has a channel, can back up a lot of what I'm saying. Puts out very excellent research. Check Yusuf out. And he shared that video, which got up to 80,000 views before I voluntarily removed it, because I was considering going back to that event. And what can I say? So I was invited, to make a long story short, there was people looking for answers while they were getting the reversals, when I discovered this movement broke out couple years ago, when Virgo Triad surfaced for the first time around September of 2017, somewhere around September. Her earlier videos, where she started coming in claiming she was an expert and saying she was going to help out. She claimed she was going to help out at first, and then turned around and said she wants to start reporting people, calling the Federal Reserve up. And I'm going to explain the psychology too, of why she's doing that. Some people, they can be agents of if I don't have any evidence that she is a government shield, but one of the anonymouses on there said that they did do some research or background check on her and claim that, but I don't have any evidence. However, I'll say this: people can be agents of hate. They can be agents of disinfo, agents of corruption, by the way. And she's definitely a form of an agent. She spews talking points. I don't know if she could be funded by Soros, but some of these things I'm noticing going on with the censorship, you know, her channel's blowing up. She claims these other people in this so-called movement that study this information are con artists. I've never sold TDA packages. I've never provided consultation, for example. And she has the nerve. She has a GoFundMe account too. It has over $2,000 raised. I don't even have a GoFundMe, so I question, you know, her integrity. She does not show a real name, but I was going to get to the name. It's not. I don't think it's Kim Goygan. That was people. She's connected to Tank with the Mana World Trust. Somebody threw that name out there because they couldn't find her name, because Virgo Triad is hiding herself very well. But there was a name of an individual I did discover within the Discord app that I'm going to mention, who I talked to some other people about her, who I think is an agent, and Extra Light told me I'm very observant and some other people. But there was a woman by the name of Tammy Bowers, and I believe I may have even seen her comment on some of Virgo Triad's videos. That could very well be Virgo Triad herself or someone she knows. But whoever's name was Tammy Bowers, they're an agent. So that could be her real name. I'm not sure in particular. I had some people looking into that. I heard that Harvey was looking into that as well. But she's definitely a hater. And the reason you have people like this, the system fears when it can't make money off you, it feels threatened, because many of you already know the government, they're making money behind the scenes off people's birth certificates. And sometimes gatekeepers might not know what's going on with the private sector. There really is a ruling class elite. Virgo Triad tries to claim that if you bring up the Aluma donkey, you guys know what I'm referring to, this conspiracy theory stuff, that is not credible. But there really is a ruling class elite. There was a Bilderberg meeting they just wrapped up about a week ago in Switzerland. They have their meeting around the same time of the year. There's different secret societies out there. You guys can do your own research, but this is a fact. There's even female secret societies. There's Eastern Stars. There's Sisters of Light or whatever. But she claims she's trying to lump people who study this type of information all in one particular category, which is inaccurate. We all don't think alike. Everybody is different. Some of these people she lumped me in a category with I've never even met. I've had conversations with, but I don't even know. Like I've never met face to face. By the way, she claimed she did a video where she said we're all working together. Trying to lump us. So it shows she's definitely an agent of disruption. But gatekeepers use these fear mongering tactics. She's trying to spook people to keep you enslaved and dependent on them. Because, but you also have, you do have people who are ill informed, who file documents inappropriately because they have not taken a legal class or they have not been properly educated on the subject matter process they are using. But the TDA secret accounts were real. It's not about the reversals, but it's about proving that the accounts were real. And you do have not just her, but it's Van Bellen and some others, some gatekeepers out there, some agents. So once again, the concept is if you leave and you venture off the plantation, then they feel threatened. So they will ridicule you. They'll try to spook you to scare you back on. So keep in mind, these are fear tactics. What they're doing is malicious because she makes up a lot of lies. So I'm glad you guys are able to see, she's a big fraud over there, by the way. And from what I went over already, you can compare notes to other people who are sharing information, such as Eon and others on YouTube. He does puts out excellent work. Who else is sharing, like went over the definitions and some of the things that I broke down, by the way, and then, this individual just mentioned, she never shows a real face or a real, like, once again, a real name. So she's so credible and so reputable. What are you hiding from? By the way, it's just something to think about. But I don't want to waste too much energy or time on her. Get back to the chat. Okay, I went over that earlier. Humble discipline of Yah says term responsibles in the Black's Law Dictionary. Okay. I didn't forget about you. Nameless. Anna Von Ritz has written a lot on Virgo Triad being a fraud. Likely the Kim mentioned by Thomas Williams Tank CIA PSYOP. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's credibility, in my opinion, to what I have researched on Tank, by the way, dealing with the reset. But someone who they couldn't, what I think what happened, they couldn't find Virgo Triad's name out there. They weren't able to ping her and get, I guess, her legal name. So they just they looked up Kim Goigan because they heard about her, because there's some people that don't believe Karen Hudis and other people such as Benjamin Fulford. So what they do is to attack someone else, they'll throw a name out there for somebody they dislike and they attach that to Virgo Triad. I don't think that's, in my opinion, that's not her real legal name, whoever she is that's hiding, because she doxes, shows a lot of people's faces and stuff, but she never shows her own, never gives a real name. But however, when I was in the Discord app, I did notice some things, because I do work in a law enforcement capacity. There was a someone by the name of Tammy Bowers, and that could be possibly, if it's not Virgo Triad, then it's somebody that she knows that was definitely spewing information back. Because another thing, she was trolling my videos, by the way, when I noticed she came out around September going into October of 2017, her earlier videos around the time she surfaced. And she, even though she wasn't saying my name, she was still in content. But I can tell by listening to her, some of the things she was going over was things that I shared. There was a guy I remember, so I have an excellent memory. When we would have private conversations, I was invited to different groups on the Discord app. I haven't been on there in like months, by the way. But there was a guy I met named Greg out of Cleveland. I forget which account he was under, different people under different accounts. And I was explaining to him years ago about the other forms of the TDA, how the bond, this particular bond that was sent to the Treasury, how it went through. But some of the things I was telling him that they can hit you with when we found out about the status and things of that sort, they can try to say that you did a securities violation of this, that, and the other. But if you know what you're doing, you don't technically have to have a securities license. By the way, there's a legal side and there's a lawful side. And the legal side has enslaved much of the lawful government because the majority rules. Jordan Maxwell talks about in a consensus reality, for example, where people believe an orange is an apple and an apple is an orange, or vice versa. It's a form of consensus. But if the majority believes that, they overrule the smaller portion and makes that reality. So there's something to think about. They use psych warfare, mind games. They use, different various tactics, by the way. So you have to understand it can get very intricate. That's why I'm going over the terminology to provide evidence where I went over from the Black's Law 6th edition. A lot of those terms, please look up person, individual. Anilingus is actually the straw man. So as you see, because this individual I went over, they just make up a lot of stuff, by the way. Okay. So Peter Venero says Kimberly Ann Gogan, Tank's girl, is Virgo's. No, yeah, you're right. That's two different people. Kimberly Goigan is the person I believe that Tank mentioned, in my opinion, from what I heard him mention, that's over the World Mana Trust. I spoke to someone who I met from the TDA movement who was actually in contact with Tank, as well as this group called the Outlaws, because I'd listened to different conference calls. I haven't been in touch with that person in a while, but I have different sources of people that shared information with me, and that was from some of you guys remember Lord Scientist, by the way. I won't go over his government name, which I can't necessarily think of offhand, because he asked me to be my friend I think he's still on my personal Facebook account, but he told me about that and actually put me up on Tank's YouTube channel. I follow a plethora of different people when it comes to the reset. I believe definitely the cabal is behind it, but this video isn't related to that specifically. However, I just want to provide clarification. I've heard a lot of people say that name, that person is Virgo Triad. In my opinion, from what I researched, that's not actually her. That's someone else. I gave a theory of a possible name of who she could be, but I don't know for sure. But that person that was in the Discord app, I definitely identified them as being an agent that was sending information back, and I believe may have even commented on her channel, because sometimes people can create a different account and comment on their own channel, by the way, and it may actually be that particular person or individual. But so if it's not her, this person I mentioned, Tammy Bowers, then it's somebody that she knows and somebody who was relaying information back, by the way. So just be very observant out there. This information is very real, by the way, and I want to reemphasize once again, I've never sold TDA packages. I've had people come to me. I've never offered consultation as of yet. I've had people actually beg me. I could show emails I've got with that. And I've talked with people and exchanged information and given my opinions and things. But as far as having it professionally set up, no, I don't. I don't have consultation. I don't have even a donation box on my channel. I don't even have a GoFundMe account. Virgo Triad has a GoFundMe account with over $2,000 raised, by the way. And she claims that to get on a lot of people who are con artists and scam artists. That looks like she's a con artist herself, by the way. She's in it for the money, by the way. So far, my channel is only monetized, just like her channel. That's the only thing I have, by the way, just to show you guys, and I'm transparent. You guys can see my actual face, who I am. I'm going over evidence. So that's credibility. That's substantial. That's reputable. Just something to keep in mind, by the way. let me go back to the chat. RBG says, Dorsey, good morning. Nameless One says, lawful people, America on the land are the creditors. U.S. citizens, corporate employees are lost at sea and presumed to be debtors to U.S. bankruptcy. Yes, that is correct. That's another thing I thought about earlier. That when I went over civically dead, remember when I went over the definition? If you watch the video, I actually pulled up that definition. There was another similar term in the Black's Law, but I pulled that definition dealing with civically dead from this manual, which you can purchase, look up online, operating secure. I think I did a previous book review on this, but I pulled up civil death to confirm. They chant civil death, and it says person of a person who was declared civically dead by judgment of a competent tribunal in such cases. Then it lists the case law in here as well, by the way. So just to give you guys a point of reference, let me go back to the chat. Once again. Okay, it says her info may be legit. She was an agent and her husband, psyops in the books too. So who, my question rose, GB, I'm just questioning, who are you referring to? Who may be legit? And okay, I'm not sure in particular. Alan Michael says, I know a private investigator. We will find out who she is. Okay, great, excellent. I do know Harvey did a video a long time ago or whatever. Asked for people. I do know from when Virgo tried, when she first came out, because she was attacking a lot of people in the movement too, by the way, that she says she's a grandmother. I think she's retired. She says she allegedly worked in corporate America, by the way, but she never shows her face or any screen name, because of course Virgo triad is a pseudonym name, not even referring to like a legal name, but like another type of name I went over where it deals with Venus Trinity, by the way. I have some notes on it from one of my sources. What Venus Trinity is. The concept comes from Virgo is the virgin ruled by Venus. Triad is another word for Trinity. Like you have a triad, like a Chinese mafia, by the way. So you put together, you can also call it Trinity Venus or Venus Trinity. So feminist deals with a lot of people and women in the feminist movement. This was shared to me by someone, because I check with sources myself. Not just working in the type of field that I work in. I have a friend that studied eschatology, astrology, other languages, and he can beat out some of your most smartest scholars. He can speak multiple languages. I can, just like a basketball coach in basketball, I can see people's talent, skill sets in other regards, by the way. And he explained that feminist, that she's a feminist gangster, by the way, and that's in cryptic. When she uses the name Virgo, it represents the virgin ruled by Venus. Triad is another word for Trinity. Now, I don't have a problem in terms of women wanting to achieve their rights and things. But however, that's unmasking kind of sort of why she may have chosen that name and who she is, but she's a feminist gangster, by the way, if you get the point. So Virgo is, of course, the concept is the virgin ruled by the planet Venus. When you get into astrology, triad is another word for Trinity, for three, by the way. And that was also a term I heard dealing with communism as well, that Dr. Claude Anderson explained from a particular video some years ago. I was trying to get some notes on that. It's pretty deep, so it can have some other meanings to it as well that can get pretty interesting. So we got Extra Light in the chat, says, I have gotten to know Dorsey and personally, and he is a great person and he is real just like me. Okay, thank you, Extra Light. I appreciate you. Yep, definitely. I haven't forgot about you. That's why I brought you up. Thank you for joining. Big shout out to you. Her channel is still up. She was a pioneer in the movement as well as Mike O'Brien, Triple Moore, as well as others out there that we saw solidified evidence that all of us, we know that these accounts were real despite the reversals or whatnot that they were being blocked. And from what I heard, I have a source that stated they used to go through many years ago, by the way, with no reversals. They changed it. I don't know which particular year they started doing that. Some people are in the know, but you have to know how to, I guess, fill out the application properly. Nowadays, what they're doing, some of these elites are very malicious. They're making people sign non-disclosure agreements, secrecy agreements to try to shut people up. But this shows you they were stealing from my accounts. I went over this already. This is a form of fraud. When you have people who found out that are legitimately trying to access them, but you're blocking them from it, and then they're stalling the reset and doing other heinous, malicious things. I didn't want this video to be about that, but you can kind of connect the dots and see what's going on. Rahul says, "Hey man, can you please give me a shout out to my friend San Flores? It's his birthday today and he failed his driving test. He's having a really bad day and I want to cheer him up." Okay, shout out to you, Sam Flores. I hope all goes well for you. Just try to stay up in spirit. Big shout out to you from Raul Lazarado. Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing your name, but big shout out to you, Sam. And Raul, thank you for joining. Alan Michael says, yes, correct. Peter Venero says, should we still proceed with the administrative process and securing our straw man and a trust now that Trump is in office, in your personal opinion? From my opinion, I would say, proceed with caution. This is one of the reasons I do give a disclaimer. And I want to let you know, a lot of people are so-called gurus. I don't profess to be any guru. I'm not anybody's leader. I got a message from someone on Twitter that said that I have followers. You naturally can have followers from social media based on people liking your content. But by no means, I'm at a certain level. I still do study and research. But in my opinion, you have to dig deep down inside. If it's been going bad for you, then I say, hey, take a break, go with what you feel, what's in your gut, safe. And keep in mind, there are different processes. There's different procedures involved in this type of information. This information is not all the same. So the UCC, to me, that was like older information. I've moved on and saw different ways. That's why I went over a lot of the definitions. I think, in my opinion, will help you out to start off. I was told many years ago it's very important. Also, these different contracts, like your voter registration, if you have a beautician license for women that do hair, barber license, military DD 214 papers, driver's license, all of those things are licenses. But keep in mind, there's different ways to operate. I did give a disclaimer, so this is not legal advice. I encourage you, at the end of the day, please seek a competent professional. These are my opinions and based off my experience. However, I've done in-depth research into this, and thank you for your question. Hopefully I answered that for you, Peter. Extra Light says, yes, I've been trying to reach out to Mike O'Brien. I hope he's okay. Extra Light says, I'm still investigating my loan company. It's not over. Alan Michael says, I will email you Jonathan Haley's book, A for V, has nothing to do with accessing the TDA. Everyone can implement the secret government protocol. Okay, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it, by the way. And my email, Alan, once again, for my inquiries on here is Dorsey's Resource 2017 at gmail.com. It's Dorsey's Resource 2017 at gmail.com. Looks like we got a super chat in here. Trying to see if I can adjust it. Give a shout out to whoever gave the super chat. Okay, Extra Light 34. Okay, appreciate you, Extra Light. Thank you for the super chat. Okay, big shout out to you once again. So hopefully, if you want to email me, Alan, my email is Dorsey's Resource 2017 at gmail.com. I would like to check out the book. Thank you for that information. Rose GB says, at Extra Light 34, hey lady, I thought your channel went off. We need to reconnect. I miss Harvey D and Mike. Yep, that's what's up. Aubrey G says, Sam Flores Aubrey, thank you. Okay, sis, enjoy your day. Yeah, those trips, Sam, whoever Sam is. Uh, Extra Light says, donate to my brother, love and light. Okay, let me know. We got to reconnect sometime. Extra Light, just shoot me an email. Well, guys, I think it's my time. I've been on here quite a while. Wanted to answer, go over as many points as possible. Kind of, hopefully I didn't go off track. I went over a lot of definitions. Like I said, I had a lot to go over, but it's been a while. I wanted to. This is kind of one of the first times I've gone this long in the morning because I, was on a graveyard shift last night. But I want to go over important, credible information, definitions. I think will help dispel some of the myths and rumors that are going on, that are floating on out there, misinformation, and provide better clarification. Also, before I shut things down, is there this individual and others have said the United States is not a corporation, and I can disprove that. You can look up United States Code Title 28, Section 3002, subsection 15A. I have it memorized, but if you go on once again, Title 28, Section 3002 states unequivocally, even online, it states unequivocally the United States is a federal corporation. Also, forgot to mention, look up juristic person. Look up the definition of juristic. I went over, please look up the definition of person, individual, and natural person and corporation. It will explain to you that the straw man is not just a myth. It's not a mythological legend. This is not an urban legend. And by the way, Edward G. Griffin's book, Creature from Jekyll Island, is real. By the way, that's credible information. To back him up, check out Bill Steele from back in the day. He worked on Money Masters, and he had like another documentary you can watch for free on YouTube called Secret of Oz or something like that. But just type in Bill Steele, by the way. So let me see, make sure. I'm not sure if I got any more messages. Says, we still want a slave ship. We are always connected. Many blessings, key. Okay, extra light. Yeah, yeah. We still on a slave ship. Yep, that's what I call it, the slavery plantation. Right. Aubrey says, Dorsey, you are appreciated. Appreciate you. Terry says, just now getting on. Nameless one says, Bill is still reporting. Love his work. Wow, that's phenomenal. Big shout out to Bill Still out there. That's phenomenal. He's still doing his thing. Peter Venero says, thank you so much, Discord. Appreciate you. Appreciate those that invited me. I just wanted to do the title of this video once again, Genuine Evidence. The straw man is a legal entity. A legal entity is also a separate definition. So to get ready to close things down, I want to thank you guys for joining me. I'm your host, John Dorsey at Dorsey's Resource. You can follow me on Facebook at Dorsey's Resource. I'm on Twitter at Dorsey's Resource, and of course, YouTube at Dorsey's Resource. I'm also on minds.com and gab.ai. I'm not on there as much, just as like a backup, because there's a lot going on out there. You guys know what I mean, dealing with the censorship and stuff coming down the line. But there is hope out there. Be encouraged to everyone. Thank you for joining me. I want everyone have a great day. Until next time, thank you for joining me. Take care.